What's up, guys? Regiment in this podcast is brought to you by G Fuel, the ultimate energy drink for gamers. G Fuel uses a special blend of vitamins, antioxidants, and other natural caffeine resources to keep you from having those jitters or even that crash that you normally would have from other energy drink brands. So whether you're having a long gaming session or you're just having a long day and need a pick-me-up, G Fuel definitely has you covered. G Fuel also has a wide array of flavors to choose from. But if you don't know what flavor you want to try, they also sell variety packs on their website, and they even come with a cool shaker. So head on over to gfuel.com and use promo code Regiment at checkout to get up to 30% off. That is Regiment, promo code Regiment down here at checkout to get up to 30% off. So soldiers trying to leave the Army currently have their lives on hold due to a systems outage blocking their discharge paperwork, the service confirmed to Army Times Wednesday. The service interruption is affecting the transition processing system, which produces the discharge forms and separation orders required for troops to access post-service benefits like the VA disability pay, retirement pensions, and the GI Bill, and more. The service's top official, Army Secretary Christine Wormuth, was asked about the outage during Tuesday evening at the town hall event at Schofield Barracks, Hawaii. She encouraged troops experiencing problems to report them through the chain of command, because we know that works.
Yeah. We know
reporting the chain of command is a fail-proof fucking process. Army Times interviewed two retiring soldiers who confirmed that they were both turned away from their local transition assistance offices Tuesday due to the outage. Both soldiers requested anonymity because they were concerned about potential retaliation for not being authorized to speak with the media.
That's the crazy thing too. Like when you're so afraid of bringing up a legitimate issue and problem because you're going to get punished for bringing that to light.
Bring it up to your chain of command. Well, your chain of command's not doing anything and you're just getting fucked left and right. But your only option is to go to the media, because unless you don't, things won't change. Chains of command and admin in the military take zero accountability for their fuck-ups at all times. It is always your fault, not theirs. But they won't acknowledge it. However, if they fuck up and overpay you, they will take that back immediately. They want that now. If they fuck up and underpay you and they owe you, it takes forever. They're like a fucking mafia loan shark, where if they owe you money, they'll take their sweet time because they know that you can't do shit about it. But if you owe them, they'll come and beat your children until you fucking get it back, or they'll hold your wife hostage or something stupid. I'm exaggerating, but they basically make your life a living hell because you owe them. Welcome back for another episode of the Smoke Pit. I am Brock, and it's Doc again with me. We are your hosts of the Smoke Pit podcast. How have you been? That's surprisingly not a Rip It.
Yeah, it's a non-sponsored energy drink. It's a rain.
I know what it is. Wait, should you not be drinking that?
That's why I try to cover it up.
You didn't do a very good job of it.
I did what I could.
So yeah,
but I feel like I caught the crud. I was at the leadership conference for Reverend Warriors this past weekend.
You mean you got COVID?
It's like, no.
I can still taste everything and shit. Dude, I got food poisoning the other day.
Maybe you should cook your food more.
No, I went out to eat. So I went out to a restaurant with my with my in-laws. My wife's grandma was in town, so we went out to eat. And Friday night, and all I had was like a brew house mac and cheese, which was like mac and cheese with had white cheddar in it, beer, some kind of like lager cheese, where it's like a beer cheese, and some smoked sausage and like some peppers and stuff. It was so good, and it didn't taste undercooked, but it must have not set well in my stomach, because I came home and throughout the night I started feeling like nauseous and like I had to shit, but I couldn't shit. And then like in the middle of the night I went and I just had diarrhea. I was up until 4:30 in the morning because I didn't feel good. And then I slept for maybe 3.5, 4 hours, and I woke up and started puking the next day. So I was like in bed most of the day yesterday because I just was not feeling good. And yeah, it definitely sucked. Like I felt drained for the rest of the day. And then I went to bed, late last night, I started playing Cyberpunk again.
Wow.
Because I was curious to see how the next gen and all the updates and all that stuff were. So I fired it up, downloaded the update and stuff on my PS5. And it looks and performs a lot better than it did when it first came out. I mean, it still there's a lot of bugs in the game still.
Wow, still amazing.
And some of the bugs are still the same exact bugs from the PS4 version.
That's crazy. That this long after.
But the graphics look great. The frame rate, the frames are really good. The only thing that sucks is that the ray tracing. So you have performance mode, which is that prioritizes frames per second. And you have the ray tracing mode, which prioritizes like the graphics of the of like the lighting and shit, but it drops your frames. It cuts your frames in half, and that's on a PS5. So like I was like, what does the ray tracing look like? I turned the ray tracing on, and it dropped me down to 30 frames per second on console, which isn't a PC. This is on PS5. So it's like I'm losing frames on a PS5 with it.
Such a W game.
I mean, it's weird because the narrative, like, it was a busted ass game. It's
still a busted ass.
It's not as busted. They did overhaul a lot of things, which makes the game feel a lot better. They added a bunch of new stuff to it, so it looks and plays a lot better than it used to.
The bar was set very low.
Also, they overhauled the AI for like the characters in the game, like the NPCs, the cops, the police were completely overhauled. Because before, like, you could do whatever you wanted, and the cops barely did shit, or they would just randomly spawn on top of you, and it was easy to get away from them. It's still kind of easy to get away from them, but the way that the police mechanic works is a lot better. It's not like GTA, but. And the NPCs are more dynamic than they used to be. Before
do you still T-pose?
It's funny you say that. I did still see a T-pose.
That's funny. I
was fighting somebody, and in the middle of the fight, he just started T-posing. I was like, okay.
I guess I win this fight. That's a nice polo, or a nice flannel you got on there.
Oh, you like it? The regiment flannel? This thing's actually surprising. I don't know. I got it for Christmas. This thing is actually surprisingly comfortable. Like, it's nice and soft. It's not like a normal flannel. It's a thinner material, but it's softer material. So it does feel nice and comfortable. It fits great, but I highly recommend don't drying it and don't throw it in the dryer. Cold wash it and hang dry it. It'll shrink. This is definitely going to shrink if I try to throw it in the dryer.
Not much of a flannel guy myself. I think flannel looks good on me.
Dude, I love flannels. I fucking love flannels. Alicia thinks
well, you can pull off the mountain man look. I can't do it.
I can pull the mountain man off.
We've also got a beard, so
you would if you could grow one.
If I was allowed to, and also the capability.
I was more leaning towards the capability than the being allowed.
It's very slow, but then after scruff looks very good to me. Once I hit a certain point, I just look homeless, and I look like when you see me that you just want to buy me a sandwich. You're like, you doing okay? You want some?
You got that patchy shitty beard.
Yeah, it looks very. It just doesn't look good. It's just not good.
Some people are just not meant to have facial hair, man. It's okay.
That's true.
The fuck the VA, by the way.
Oh, you don't say.
Dude, so get this shit, right? So my claim for mental health was denied for the second time. And I've been fighting the VA since 2021 for this shit. And the evaluator had me come in, and the biggest thing in her notes was like, she said, there's no evidence of service connectability here, yet there is notes from my time in service of me addressing that I am going through depression and stuff. And they said that I denied treatment. But the truth was, and I told them this, I'm like, it wasn't that I denied treatment. It was just that there was nobody there. Like, we didn't have any like therapists on base. And I was offered to talk to the chaplain, which I said, no, I don't want to talk to the chaplain. I want to talk to like a therapist. and they took that as I am denying. I'm like refusing treatment. So I'm like not wanting to talk to the chaplain, who is not a fucking professional or a trained doctor for that kind of shit. Why would I want to talk to them?
Some of them are.
Some of them are, but these guys are not. Like these dudes were just chaplains. And like all it is was like, well, pray about it. Like, fuck off. I don't want to pray about it.
There was this person was told to go to the chaplain. I don't know if it was true or not, but they're told to go talk to the chaplain. He's like, I don't want to talk to that guy. He has a sign on it, or he has a picture on his wall that he's Psycho the rapist. And they're like, do you mean he's a psychotherapist?
That can't be a truth thing.
But if you look at it, if you pronounce it differently with the exact same spelling, it says Psycho the rapist.
That is a something in a show. I want to say It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, when he was like saying that like analrapist. I want to be an analysis therapist. And like they put it together and it was analrapist, and they spell it out. It says
anal rapist.
Yeah.
Well then.
But anyway, so
I mean, if you guys need some VA help, just go in the Discord. We have a whole section for it.
So I submitted, obviously, like later on, I've been going to therapy and stuff. So I submitted a new claim for mental health, because now I have therapist notes, and I have a psychiatrist and a therapist that all back me up on it. And also for sleep apnea, because the sleep apnea evaluator says that he is in 100% full support that my sleep apnea is service connected to my mental health. Well, oh my God, I smell the onions again. My dog ate a bunch of green onions.
Did he fart?
He's been farting or burping, and it just smells.
I just hear her dying in the background.
So, so the person that did my evaluation this time was the same person that denied me last time. Only this time, they didn't bring me in for an evaluation. It was a record review. So I didn't even get a chance to come in and talk to her about the new developments and new evidence from the last time that she saw me. She just went and looked at my records.
Quote unquote.
Quote unquote looked. So her notes for her denial were exactly, almost word for word, the same, except for 2 sentences at the end, where she pointed out, patient is able to maintain social interaction, a marriage, and school, and is not affected by their mental health. So because I can hold a marriage, get good grades, and still be sociable, like by doing podcasts and shit, I am automatically not qualified for mental health.
So I mean, in the mental health world, we do tend to say it's not diagnosable unless it's affecting an area of your life. Because like otherwise you can have it, yes, but it's not diagnosable unless it's causing problems, if that makes sense.
See, the thing is, it does cause problems. But the problem is, just because I'm able to overcome those problems, but then sink back into them, doesn't invalidate any of this, you know? Yeah, I do get good grades. However, throughout the entire semester, I struggle to pay attention because of shit. I procrastinate, mostly because I have no drive to actually do some of my homework. So I end up getting backlogged with my assignments, and I often have assignments turned in late because I just get depressed and overwhelmed, and I don't feel like doing them until I'm like, but the GI Bill is my other source of income, and I need that money to like pay my bills. So I get good grades for more than just that I need to do well in school. I'm doing it because if I don't, I'm going to lose my benefits. So it's like I have to like crunch all the time. And then I'm just like in this constant cycle of depression, crunch time, depression after crunch time, depression after crunch time. And it's like, it's just a cycle of that and that and that. I've been talking to my therapist about it, but I didn't get a chance to talk to this person about it. So she denied me. and then put a bunch of notes of saying that here are things that are in your favor. Basically saying that I do have issues with depression and anxiety that is onset from, that's either aggravated or caused by time in service. However, it's not service connected.
It was like textbook ADHD.
It's stupid. I'm like, I don't understand like how I have these things that are connected, but then on the other hand, you turn around and say not connected. So fuck the VA evaluation system. You guys are fucking dicks for that shit. And it's so stupid that we have to fight so hard to prove shit. When yet, I even saw somebody saying this on a TikTok where it's like, the thing that they hate about the VA is like in the military, they trust us all the time to do all this crazy shit, to be responsible for all these things, for multi-million-dollar pieces of equipment, for doing our job in wartime and stuff like that. They trust us for that kind of stuff. But when it comes time for like, hey, I have issues now because of what I was doing in the military, now we have to fight tooth and nail to prove it because they don't believe you anymore. They don't trust you.
Well, the VA is like those people inspecting our barracks rooms that don't allow us to have a candle.
Right.
Because we'll burn the place down.
It's
which ironically, some people probably would.
They would, but like the problem is like fighting so hard. Like we shouldn't have to fight so hard to prove something. And then when we have other doctors backing you up, it's still the VA is like, well, we still don't believe you. And it's like, why do we have to fight so hard for that? You know, I didn't have these issues before I left, before I went in. And now I have all these issues now that I'm out. And, you know, you're telling me that like, well, it's not because of us. Bullshit. It's not because of you.
Have you been recommended to be assisted to unalive yourself?
What?
Have you been by the VA?
This isn't Canada, so no. So yeah, I mean, it's just so dumb. Like, and the worst part is the North Chicago VA has
trash.
It's so bad. I told my buddy Mike, he's a guy that's been on my podcast. His therapist is through the North Chicago VA.
It's depressing.
And he says that when he was talking about like his depression and, you know, his like suicide and stuff, the guy was just sitting on his phone texting.
Mm-hmm.
And he was just like, am I bothering you right now? I was like, oh, I'm sorry. Continue.
I'm shocked.
So it's like, I got lucky with my community care. I have a great therapist, a great psychiatrist. They're all veterans. So it's talking to them is easier. You know, like them understanding me is much better. And the VA is starting to get hard pressed about doing the community care shit. Like my physical therapy, they want me to, I said, I want to go through community care for the physical therapy because I don't want to have to drive in North Chicago every single time that I have to have, they want me to go there every week. And I'm like, no, I'm in school full time. I have to go north 40 minutes to go to class, but you want me to come to physical therapy in the morning. So I got to drive over an hour to get to class after physical therapy. And I'm like, I'm not working right now because of school and shit.
For those that don't know, North Chicago isn't actually Chicago. It's basically Great Lakes. It's where Navy Boot Camp is.
It's about 30 to 40 minutes away from where I live.
It's right across from Navy Boot Camp.
Right. It's where the Navy Boot Camp is. So driving there from Wisconsin is a pain in the ass because then I have to drive from there to my class. And the whole system when it comes to evaluation for benefits is broken. Absolutely broken. Because
the government system is broken? What?
Yeah, it is. Because it's like they have these, especially with mental health, because the way they look at it is that unless you went to Afghanistan, we don't give a fuck about your mental health. So it's like unless something happened to you that was absolutely traumatic in the military, your mental health doesn't count. It's stupid. Because
you should have just been raped, then you could have been covered.
That's the other thing. Unless you are sexually assaulted or something happens to you in combat, they don't care. And even then, the sexual assault thing, which it does happen, those people have a hard time claiming that, even with evidence of it, of like, you know, of the event. They still have a hard time getting that like part of their claim. So and like the way they look at it is unless you deployed, they don't care. So it sucks because now we're in a time where especially when I was in, we were at a time where the deployments were winding down. So we weren't deploying anymore. But I was in Ukraine for the whole Russian thing when it started. So the first part, yeah, before they actually invaded. We stopped them from invading by being there. But we were training the Ukrainians and sending them out east to fight the Russians. Because there was a conflict going on even back then. It just wasn't a full-scale invasion like it is now. So I was there during that, but it doesn't count because it was not considered a deployment. It's considered a training rotation.
It's all in the wording.
It's all in and they worded it like that on purpose. So, and it sucks because now that there are no deployments happening anymore anywhere, unless you're part of special forces or something, then you're going to like Africa or something. There is a large number of people in the military that aren't going to go on deployments anymore. They're not going to see combat, but they are still going to have mental health issues. But proving that now is going to be even harder unless they get treatment when they're in. And that was the other thing for my sleep study. I have sleep apnea. I wanted a sleep study before I ETS'd out of the Army, but they wouldn't let me do it because in order for me to get a sleep study, I was in Italy. I had to go to Landstuhl, Germany to get a sleep study done. And they weren't going to do it. They're like, we're not
the capabilities and everything.
It's not even that because they don't have the equipment in Italy, but they also don't want to spend the money to send me up to Germany to get it done.
Yeah.
So it was a lot of that. They didn't want to spend the money to send me to another country to get something done. And same with my evaluation. Like when I wanted to get evaluated before I got out, there was no evaluator. The VA rep that was there left before I started clearing. So there was no one to talk to. They said, just do it when you get out. So they set me up for failure off the rip, which sucks. So yeah, fuck the VA. But anyway.
Yep. Not a big fan myself.
And then
we're dealing with right now the new medical implementation system of Genesis, which is an absolute shit show. You can tell that it was designed to be a civilian system. Because, like, we have to do insurance stuff every time someone checks in. I'm like, that's clearly a civilian thing. Yeah, that's clearly a civilian thing because in the military, especially if they're active duty, they're covered.
Yeah, you're under TRICARE. Well, you don't need to run your insurance.
Exactly. So that's how we can tell that whoever designed this was designing it from a civilian aspect. There's a lot of things wrong with that system, honestly, when it comes to the military. It
sounds like it.
Like IDCs, which are independent duty corpsmen, they're basically like an enlisted PA, physician's assistant. There's nothing in the system for them. So they actually have to be put into the system like they were a full doctor. So they have capabilities, technically, in the system to order things and do stuff that they really shouldn't be allowed to do. And I know somewhere down the line it's going to come where should they be doing those things? Obviously not. But somewhere down the line it's going to happen either by mistake or intentional, just because the capability is there.
Yeah. When it comes to implementing systems, the military is not good with that shit. Neither is the VA.
Like I could see an IDC giving someone Adderall or something.
I wonder like if there's going to end up being like kind of like the PACT Act for like people in the Navy that were on ships that had the jet fuel in the water.
Maybe.
That something's going to come down about that. And it's funny I'm saying this because I wanted to talk about this real quick. When did that all start coming forward about the jet fuel in the water? That was like a year ago, right?
No, it was less than 6 months ago.
So, you know the movie World War Z?
Uh-huh.
They predicted that. Which has me wondering, like, is the jet fuel in the water like a thing that's been going on for much longer?
October. It was in October.
So World War Z has a scene where,
or maybe September. Might have been September.
So actually. In World War Z, you know how everyone's on the aircraft carrier?
Yeah.
So you know how Brad Pitt's family's on the aircraft carrier? They're in the mess hall, and the daughter is like, the water tastes funny, And one of the fucking sailors looks at her and said, it's the jet fuel. There's jet fuel in the water. And this movie came out in 2013.
You know what's funny? A few of the, I think it might have been the Angry Cops coverage of it. Looking in the comments, so a lot of the older Navy people that were in the comments were talking about how that's been a thing for a long time. But because back in their era, it was before social media.
There was no way to bring it up. It was always
it was hush hush. There was no true way to be able to get it out. Like you might have every so often you would have one major whistleblower that made it to like big news for some shit like that. But it was so rare. It was so easy to keep that shit on the down low. So it happened. I feel like it's been happening for generations. Because they were like, yeah, that was a normal thing all the time. Half the time we'd have to sniff the water to make sure it was good to drink. And I'm just thinking, this has been going on for so long that it's only a national news thing now because we have the capabilities for it. Like if that, honestly, I don't think that would have ever made the fucking news if it weren't for things like TikTok, fucking any of the social media outlets to where a bunch of people are corroborating the same story to where someone picks up the news and then like they don't have a choice and they can't cover it up because they're like, yeah, that's fucking bullshit. There's jet fuel in your goddamn water.
So I'm gonna send you this video. Hang on, let me go to the article so that the audience can actually hear this too. So World War Z predicted this. Hang on, let me send it to you.
Continue.
So World War Z predicted the jet fuel in the water. So, which has me thinking that this has been a thing for a long time.
I think so. I think
so. Hang on, let's watch. Let's have the viewers watch it.
Hold on, wait for it.
Mommy, is this dinner?
Yes, sweetheart.
Water here tastes funny.
The water here tastes funny, and the sailor.
It's jet fuel, young lady.
Just joking.
He's like, it's jet fuel, young lady, and the mom's like, he's joking, but he wasn't joking. Are you watching this?
Mm-hmm.
The water here tastes funny.
I wish. D-Sal has trouble filtering it out.
Interesting.
Probably because there's too many people on this ship.
And then the other guy says, I wish he was joking, but they're having a hard time filtering it out because there's too many people on the ship.
That's not a thing.
Though that part's not a thing, the jet fuel in the water is a thing.
Yeah.
So World War Z back in 2013 predicted that jet fuel had been in the water and on the carriers and shit.
Whenever, for anyone that's ever been on ship, they know that going throughout the ship, you've got different pipes and they're all labeled for what they're supposed to be. So they'll be labeled as like potable water and they'll literally be labeled as jet fuel. You can see the same pipes on the same bulkhead or the same wall. And it's very easy, technically, to mix up connections, I would say especially nowadays when people, I would say, are significantly lazier and topped with overworked, terrible training, figure it the fuck out mindset. And they get this terrible training and they're just, they're connecting shit and then going about their day, not even thinking about it. And then they've connected a potable water line with a jet fuel line. And it could be one spot on the ship, just one little spot, and boom.
Yeah, dude, I was watching World War Z the other day, right? And that's how I found this. I was watching it, and then there was the chow hall scene, and then they were just like, the water here tastes funny, and the sailor's like, it's jet fuel. And I'm like, wait, really? Did they predict that? Or has this really been a thing that is only just now coming out?
Oh, no, it's been a thing for a while.
Yeah,
at least from what I found from those comments and in that original video. People in the 90s, they were talking about, they're like, when I was during, it was like the Gulf War era, they were talking about how they always had to smell the water.
That's crazy.
It's insane. It's like Lejeune water on ships.
Lejeune water on ships. Is that what you said?
Yeah.
Oh, God. Good old Camp Lejeune. Never been there, but I've heard
It's not
stories.
it's not a good place to go.
Don't
Recommend.
All things bad have been, not all things bad, but interesting things going on in the military, especially how troops can't get discharge forms or retire due to the Army's HR transition.
Which is what I'm assuming is how they're handling like their what do you guys call admin? Is it S1?
S1, yeah.
Okay, so you guys are the same as the Marine Corps on that then.
Well, here's the thing. What does this even really mean? Because S1, it's just like a normal platoon in the fucking Army. Like, you get new people in all the time and people transition out. It's like
I think it's probably related to the systems that are being implemented, like the online systems.
Let's look here.
So like for us, we started using Salesforce, which is how we submit all of our pay issues, all of our contracts, and pretty much how we fucking submit everything now. But there's different like drop downs for the category, where it goes, et cetera, et cetera. But it was a terrible transition. And I would say it's still a terrible transition. And the bugs are still being worked out to where, at least in the Navy, people have been getting out without their DD-214s for a while now. Like, I've gone to meetings and town halls where people ask the question like, hey, I've had this sailor that's been out for like 6 months and we're still waiting on their fucking DD-214. What the fuck? Like, if you think you can't do anything without that, the best that they can get is a letter of service, like a letter of service memo from their commanding officer or whatever
to prove that they were out.
And like that prove any type of service while they're waiting on their DD-14. That's unacceptable. And no matter what, they can't start their VA shit.
No, they can't do anything without that. They can't even enroll in school with their GI bills because of that.
Like, it's absolute trash.
So let's read the article. So soldiers trying to leave the Army currently have their lives on hold due to a systems outage blocking their discharge paperwork, the service confirmed to Army Times Wednesday. The outage, which is preventing the Army from issuing DD-214 discharge forms or processing retirement requests for approximately 4,000 troops, is due to data processing issues, according to the spokesperson for the Services Personnel Directorate, Lieutenant Colonel Joseph Payton. The service interruption is affecting the transition processing system, Payton said, which produces the discharge forms and separation orders required for troops to access post-service benefits like the VA disability pay, retirement pensions, and the GI Bill, and more. We anticipate the transition processing system to fully be functional within a week, the spokesperson. No, it will not. Not in a week. Once it's up and running, we'll prioritize processing discharge forms for our transitioning soldiers who have been impacted. The service's top official, Army Secretary Christine Wormuth, was asked about the outage during Tuesday evening at the town hall event at Schofield Barracks, Hawaii. She encouraged troops experiencing problems to report them through the chain of command, because we know that works.
Yeah. We know that
reporting the chain of command is a fail-proof fucking process.
Yeah. I mean, let's look at our barracks issues. That seemed to work the same process too.
Any kind of issues, food issues. I remember we couldn't even fucking get food in our base because their chow hall was shut down, and we were resorted to eating MREs 3 times a day on base, out of a deployment or training, a training scenario. We were on base. We had a fucking commissary right there. But we were like, can we get separate rats so that we can actually, be able to afford groceries? And they told us no. They said,
go ahead and sweep that under the rug.
So they were like, no, because there's another base nearby that has a functioning chow hall. Because our chow hall got shut down several times. One, because of roaches. So they had to fucking clean it out and kill the roaches and shit and bomb the place. And then another time was because they ran out of funding for the chow hall, so we had no food. We were running out of food. I remember showing a picture, sending it home, saying like, or posting on Facebook saying that like, this is our chow right now. And it was literally like an omelet and a piece of toast. And it was only because they had nothing else. And it was like, you weren't allowed to have anything else.
In the words of the Navy, lower your standards.
And then they started saying, well, we're not serving lunch anymore. And then it was like, well, we're not serving, we're only going to be operational Monday through Friday. And also not serving lunch anymore. So we had to either go to some fast food place or go to the commissary and like go to somebody's house and cook it, because we didn't have any means to eat, because they were like, oh, well, with the chow hall being closed, we'll give you guys mermites, like hot A's. So it was like shit that you'd eat in the field. Those ran out. Then it was like everybody's drawing 3 MREs a day. And I'm like, no one wants to eat 3 MREs a day, but it was like their way of saying, we're still feeding you. So
that's what we call a FITFO. Figure it the fuck out.
And then the only reason why they said no about giving us like separates or like better more pay so we could buy groceries was because we have a shuttle bus that takes people from our base to the other base to get chow, because their chow hall is open and does have food.
How long was that transit?
It was about a 20-minute drive each way. So about 40 minutes of just transit, but there was one shuttle bus. So, man. And it was going back and
like
forth.
A 2.5 hour trip for.
And it was terrible, because like if you were a single soldier living in the barracks, like you had to leave PT early to go to the bus, go to chow, come back. And by the time that you got back, you had like 15 minutes to get ready for the duty day. Or sometimes you were coming back after 9 because the bus is one bus and there's like 1,000 people that they have to keep transporting. And then the lunch bus is 2 hours after that. So it's like you were spending most of your duty day waiting on the bus to go to chow.
That's so efficient.
And we were like, this is like not working. But the command team didn't really give a shit. So, as most command teams don't, send it up to your chain of command. They'll take care of you. We're from the government. We're here to help.
So please don't resist.
So the outage comes amid the service's bumpy implementation of its new human resources platform, the Integrated Personnel and Pay System -Army, which began in December after more than a year of delays attributed to feared data issues, like this one. It's the second significant hiccup associated with the platform's launch. Around 25,000 beneficiaries briefly lost their TRICARE health insurance last week due to an error transmitting data to a benefits eligibility system. Warmoth acknowledged the TRICARE lapsed Tuesday evening, but highlighted the speed at which it was resolved. Army Times interviewed 2 retiring soldiers who confirmed that they were both turned away from their local transition assistance offices Tuesday due to the outage. Both soldiers requested anonymity because they were concerned about potential retaliation for not being authorized to speak with the media.
That's the crazy thing too. Like when you're so afraid of bringing up a legitimate issue and problem because you're going to get punished for bringing that to light is fucking ridiculous.
The military is corrupt as fuck. It's corrupt to the fucking core, just like our government is. And it's crazy because it's like they wonder why retention is so bad and why people aren't joining. And it's shit like this where it's like, bring it up to your chain of command. Well, your chain of command's not doing anything and you're just getting fucked left and right. But your only option is to go to the media, because unless you don't, things won't change. So
hell, even a meme page, like the meme pages are like the biggest whistleblowers now.
Oh,
they're like,
they're
the guys that are out.
We'll get into that in a second next, but we're not done with this article because the memes actually do have a little thing that we got to talk about. They do factor in some way. So it says, a sergeant first class scheduled to begin his terminal leave next week before departing the service explained in a Wednesday phone interview that he was unable to sign his discharge form Tuesday, what was supposed to be his final visit to the installation's transition center. He said the center's employees apologized when he arrived for his appointment and pointed at stacks of delayed discharge forms on their desks. The system first went down on December 23rd for a planned outage scheduled to end on January 9th. That is a long outage. We're going to have an outage from December 23rd to January 9th?
It's like 2 weeks.
According to an internal newsletter reviewed by the Army Times, but it's not clear when, if ever, it was restored to full functionality. The second soldier, an officer stationed overseas, I guarantee you this is Italy, told Army Times via phone that he's unable to formally submit his retirement request to the service's Human Resources Command. His retirement packet is complete, save for a service calculation form that's produced in the transition processing system. The officer is scheduled to begin an improved civilian internship through the Career Skills Program, which allows troops with approved discharges or retirements to spend their final months of service getting a head start on their post-service career.
Yeah, we have a similar program.
Every branch does, I think, except the Marine Corps. I think they use the same one as the Navy's. So until his retirement packet is received and approved by HR officials, he cannot start the employment program, and his already negotiated start date is nearing. If I can't get that approval in time, I may not have access to the employment transition program, the officer said. But he's more frustrated that service leaders haven't acknowledged the problem to those stuck in the process before now. I wouldn't have reached out to Army Times if the Army had just acknowledged it and just said, hey, these are the issues, the officer said. It is almost likely that they're fearful to acknowledge their mistakes, which doesn't surprise me. This reminds me of the Soviet Union during Chernobyl. And I only say that because I just watched Chernobyl.
So insane. Like all these issues, like me, just because I get to see a lot of these issues with the stupid ass collateral that I've got. Like I almost said soldiers. I've had sailors that have been dealing with, bro. Right? I've had sailors in the past that have dealt with pay issues that we found out weren't even my fault, which I initially thought were going to be my fault because, you know, I don't know what the fuck I'm doing in this position. It seems like I'm learning as I go because it's not my job. It's a collateral that I fucked shit up, right? And we called the, you know, big Navy, the hotline that we get, and they're like, no, you submitted it correctly. It was fucked up on our end. I'm like, cool. However, that still doesn't do anything. There's still a ridiculous amount of work to do to unfuck these people's pay, unfuck their taxes, among everything. And it takes so much time and effort to get that done, other than them just being like, yep, that was a fuck up on our end. However, to get it fixed, you still have to do all of the work.
The chains of command and admin in the military take zero accountability for their fuck ups at all times. It is always your fault, not theirs. You fucked something up, but they won't acknowledge it. However, if they fuck up and overpay you or something, they will take that back immediately. They want that now. But if they fuck up and underpay you and they owe you, it takes forever for them to actually. It's just like one of those things where like they're like a fucking mafia loan shark, where if they owe you money, they'll take their sweet time because they know that you can't do shit about it. But if you owe them, they'll come and beat your children until you fucking get it back, or they'll hold your wife hostage or something stupid. I'm exaggerating, but they basically make your life a living hell because you owe them. You owe them for their fuck up, and they will collect immediately. And
I've seen junior sailors have zero money paychecks.
That's insane.
It's ridiculous. And for multiple paychecks too. Like to where they've had to go to like Navy and Marine Corps Relief Society and shit. Because even the process to like if they owed too much money that had to be taken back, the process to get it into a payment plan so they don't take it all back at once, it still takes that work and submission for them to do that. But in the immediate sense, they're still out of that fucking money.
That happened to me. That happened to me in Italy. So I was, so how we do it for jump pay. So we were on several different jump rules. So a jump rule essentially is like how you get paid for your hazard pay, for your jump pay. So if you're on a jump rule 4, I think it was, they just pay you throughout the year for those. And how they do the jumps is that as long as you get your 4 jumps done in that fiscal year, you're good. But if you don't get those 4 jumps done in that fiscal year, you owe all of it back. Versus like how it is if you on a normal jump rule where it's like kind of like split in periods throughout the year. Mm-hmm. So you have to have a certain number of jumps in each period, otherwise you have to pay it back. But what they did was, for this one, was they said that you need to have 4 jumps within this year of your jump log starting. Otherwise, you will owe all of it back, not just that period. So what happened was I had one, and it was a big issue because it was during the sequestration, and the year.
Which one?
The one in 2012, 2013.
I think I remember one.
So that sequestration was, we couldn't get parachutes to jump because they didn't have the funding to get the jumps going. So the year was wrapping up and I still needed 2 jumps to get, otherwise I was going to owe them $1,200. I was going to owe the Army $1,200 for the hazard pay. And finally, near the end, I got on these 2 jumps, but I missed it. I was late by a week. So the jumps started happening a week after the year. So because I missed out on 2 jumps, I had to owe the Army $1,200. And I'm like, I can't just fucking pay that. I have to go through a payment plan. So what they did was I went over to the office to actually set up a payment plan, and they never submitted the paperwork.
Shocking.
So I was going up to a school up in Germany, and I had to pay for my hotel room and my rental car when I was up there. And obviously I was going to get reimbursed for it, but I needed to pay for that when I got up there. Like it was out of my pocket for the hotel room and out of my pocket for the rental vehicle. On my way up there, my paycheck was $0. They just garnished all of it. And because I was an E4 at the time, I wasn't being paid that much. So my next paycheck after that was short. So I'm like, I submitted for a payment plan. And they're like, yeah, it was never actually fully submitted. I'm like, that's not my fault. So they took that shit immediately. They took it out of I had a fucking $0 paycheck. I was so pissed because it was at the worst possible time. Right? I had to borrow money from people so that I could actually afford to stay in this hotel and get this rental vehicle so that I could actually go to this school. I was so pissed. Right. And then, but I got it back. When I got back, my buddy worked in the what's that office? D-Rose. The D-Rose office where they pay you back for like reimbursements and shit for like expenses on like for going to schools. He was in charge of the office that did the reimbursements. And
no, it's just a travel claim for us.
It's essentially the same thing. So he put me in for he put it in and I ended up getting like $2,500 back. So yeah, he helped him. He hooked me up and got me out of the hole with that one. Regiment in this podcast is also proudly partnered with StackUp. StackUp is another military gaming organization. The one thing different, though, is that they focus mostly on the mental health of veterans as well as the betterment of veterans alike. One of the programs that StackUp has is their STOP, or Overwatch program, which is a 24/7 crisis support line for veterans. The thing that sets StackUp's Overwatch program above all other crisis support lines, including the VAs, is the fact that this 24/7 crisis line is operated by trained veterans. So when a veteran calls in crisis, they're not just talking to a random person. They themselves are talking to a vet that has also gone through something similar and can relate to the situation. Their trained staff in this Overwatch program will help a veteran find the resources that they need to find help. And if the person just wants somebody to talk to, the Overwatch program is great for that too. Another cool thing that the Overwatch program does is that you don't have to sit there and talk on the phone with somebody. If you feel comfortable just doing DMs, they can definitely do that too. Another really cool thing that StackUp has is their air assaults. Air assaults are where they'll take a veteran and fly them to conventions all over the country. This includes TwitchCon, Comic-Con, anywhere in the U.S., all expenses paid. And if a convention happens to be somewhere out west in California, StackUp has what's called a Phalanx House, which is essentially a gaming lounge for all veterans to just go to. StackUp will definitely hook you up with that. They have pool tables, hot tubs, and just a place to stay if you're out west. It's pretty cool. Another thing that StackUp has is their supply crates. Now, what they'll do is they'll take gaming equipment, gaming consoles, and other cool swag and send it to either a veteran in need or a unit somewhere deployed or a unit that needs it. This is a great way to keep veterans connected and boost the morale of the veterans that need it. Every year, Stack Up has a charity called the Call to Arms. The Call to Arms charity is to help Stack Up raise the funds that they need for all the awesome programs that they have. Last year alone, they raised $625,000, and all of that money goes to keeping these programs going to help other veterans that need it. If you're looking to donate, we have the donation link down in the bio. But if not, go ahead and spread the word of this awesome charity and head on over to stackup.org and check them all out. That's stackup.org and tell them Regiment sent you. So, Acosti is facing a court. Why is this ad massive? Acosti faces military's highest court for sharing disrespectful memes.
It's interesting that they're facing a military court since they're not in the military.
I know, right? So, what is this fucking ad? There was an ad. Did you see that ad?
I have a different. I've had my.
So a U.S.
browser open for
a U.S. Coast Guardsman faced the military's highest court yesterday for sending disrespectful texts to other service members, inciting questions over the consequences of distributing inappropriate messages to fellow troops on duty.
That was a very confusing paragraph.
So, Chief Machinery Technician Fernando Brown, who was stationed in the Coast Guard heavy icebreaker Polar Star, was previously convicted for the series of communications that took place during the summer of 2019, the court documents showed. This message in question were a series of memes, typically a humorous photo, or we know what a meme is, that Brown sent while in dry dock in Vallejo, California, to 3 unnamed chief petty officers in a group chat named Chief's Mess.
It's always the fucking Chief's Mess.
The first message, according to proceedings, featured an image of a fellow Coast Guardsman from her high school yearbook alongside the caption, "Voted most likely to steal your bitch." A second message included an image of a scantily dressed man with the Dallas Cowboys body paint, according to court documents, and a caption suggesting that it was a reason for another member in the chat missed a recent Chiefs call.
Interesting. I can see why he's essentially getting in trouble for these types of memes, though.
Because they were directed at people?
Yeah, it seems like, you know what the Marines United thing was all about, right?
Yeah.
Like revenge porn type kind of things.
Well, this was if it was a randomly dressed person, like saying that, like, this is why they missed the recent call.
It just seems it's targeting specific people.
But but the other thing is like, did one person in that entire group not have the same dynamic with everybody else? So I don't get it. Why is
I can at least see why he's getting in trouble too. I don't know to the extent of why he's getting in trouble. I think that's a bit much, but I can understand why he's getting some reprimand here.
So following the hang on. The final message was a photograph of the last member of the chat with crudely drawn male genitalia on his hard hat. Following the text, some in the chat testified that they felt victimized, while others said they did not find the memes to be personally disrespectful.
It's always one.
There's always one. For his actions, Brown received an initial sentence in 2020 of a reduction of rank from E7 to E4.
Holy shit.
God damn. 30 days of restriction and reprimand. The sentence was upheld by the U.S. Coast Guard Court Criminal Appeals in 2022. The outcome of this case could be more strongly defined. The standards to conduct service members must follow when communicating with one another.
That's insane.
You mean to say that the group texts I had with my other soldiers of us like sharing fucked up memes with each other, I could have gotten us in trouble?
Probably. If one person was offended, it seems like. I still think it's because it was specifically targeting people that were within that group chat.
But it was maybe for the exception of one, the rest of them weren't actual photos of them. Right, except for the hard hat one and the high school yearbook one.
Yeah, well, it could have been the hard hat one.
But the thing is, the voted most likely to steal your bitch. That one.
That was a picture of them.
It was a picture of them, but I mean, like, voted most likely to steal your girl. Like, there's nothing.
But it was probably in relation to something specific.
And the Dallas Cowboys won because he's probably a Cowboys fan and they thought it was funny, which it would be, in my opinion. So in court, Brown's defense argued that he did not violate Article 91 of the Uniform Code of Military Justice, saying that his conduct did not occur in the presence of the other petty officers or while they were performing their duties. There's no evidence as to what any of the victims were doing at the time. Scott Hockenberry argued. The only evidence is that they were what they were doing at the time at some undefined later time when they read the messages. Prosecutors disagreed, adding that the petty officers felt pressured to be part of the chat to fulfill their work assignments.
What?
I don't understand this. The facts,
what does that even mean?
It sounds like that they didn't like the guy and they were just looking for a reason.
That's why I don't like group chats.
The facts indicate that the victims were accessing the text messages string for the purpose of seeking out work-related information. Lieutenant Commander Daniel Halsig said during the hearing, added that one of his victims testified that, I like how they quoted victims, one of the victims testified that he created a group chat for work purposes. Brown
it was labeled Chief's Mess.
Brown enlisted in the Coast Guard in 2002, according to the bio information shared by his attorney in the Military Times. He served on the Polar Star as the main propulsion auxiliary chief between 2018 of July and November 2020 before transitioning to his current role in the Naval Engineering Department at the Coast Guard Base, Seattle. Petty Officer Brown is a man that loves his country, loves his service, and he would never do anything to deliberately upset or disrupt anyone's morale, the morale of the unit, the cohesiveness of the unit. Brian Prestera, another attorney of Brown, told the Military Times on a phone call, to the extent that he occurred in this case, that is certainly regrettable. However, it doesn't mean that it's criminal. So Halsig later told Military Times via email, particularly in the wake of COVID-19 pandemic, the level of interaction between service members via digital means of communication has dramatically increased, making the outcome of the case that much more important. This is weird to me because it seems the way that I'm perceiving it. And this is maybe because I was in a fucking infantry unit for most of my career. Is their senior NCO is just, kind of just being funny for the sake of like trying to make it seem like that he's not just a hard ass. He's trying to bring in a cohesion of humor, irreverent humor with the other people in his that's under him, to let it know that like, hey, I'm an easygoing person. You can, we can have that kind of relationship outside of work. And that during duty hours, it's duty time, That's
the reason I kind of hate group chats like that, because you toe that fucking line and you can quote unquote have funny moments like that until something happens, and then those times can be used against you down the road.
I know,
because it was a professional group chat.
It's stupid because and I could say this from even with my experience, like even the group chats that I had with, with guys in my unit, very often, yes, there was business being talked about in the group chat. However, we would talk shit to each other just because we were being funny and just talk shit to We're in the military. We talked shit to each other. That's what we do.
Yeah. That's why I hate group chats like that, because you're really blurring that line and you can end up getting fucked for it because it's all in the same fucking chat.
I know. It sucks because it's like,
that's why nowadays, if I'm in a group chat, I barely say anything outside of if it's not work related. I might be slightly cheeky in a response, but nothing to where it can actually get me in trouble. Just because I know how that goes. I know down the line it can end up fucking me later on.
And that sucks because back then I would be doing that, not thinking that this would come back and bite me in the ass in any way, because I'm like, why would that be an issue?
Exactly. I try to keep things completely separate. So if it's labeled as a work thing, it's a work thing for me. I might individually message them offline, because in an individual text with someone, if I'm making it work related, I'll usually address their rank in it, or some way that they know it's a business related text. When it's not, there's none of that's there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
To keep that switch from being differentiated, because I used to do that with one of my LPOs, because we were both second classes. And we would kind of hang out every so often. But when it was work related, both of us would actually address each other as our ranks, what we needed.
It's it's the lines are getting blurred between professional and casual.
And I think we can see that with our next article. That's for sure.
Oh God, yeah.
Special forces.
This is a very Navy SEAL thing to do, though.
I think this was. I don't think this was SEALs.
This wasn't SEALs. That's why. But I'm saying that like this
Delta
is some,
Force.
this wasn't Delta.
Yes, it was. Delta Force. Special Forces Group and Delta Force.
They're not called Delta. They're not called Delta. That's why I'm like.
Still Army though.
I'm curious about this. Panic grips Special Forces community amid investigation into drugs and human trafficking. Oh God, ads, bro.
This is what happens when you start getting too complacent and feel like you're at top of the board.
Panic and fear spread throughout the special operations community at Fort Bragg in Fayetteville,
It's fucking Fort Bragg,
North Carolina, as CID and FBI agents investigated members of 3rd Special Forces Group and Delta Force. It's not Delta Force, man.
What is it?
It's Combat Applications Group, CAG.
So it sounds like it used to be Delta
It used
Force.
to be called, the proper name, but back in the day was Special Forces Operations Detachment Delta. But it's not called Delta Force. Nobody calls it that. We got to
make the civilians understand.
They're either called Delta or CAG. In the Army, it's CAG. Who allegedly were involved.
Civilians, this is how they understand.
They were allegedly involved in drug and, in one instance, human trafficking, according to nearly a dozen current and former military sources. The arrest began.
And human trafficking. Holy shit. Was it Epstein's Island?
I don't know. The arrest began Tuesday, January 5th, and culminated with a 100% recall accountability formation in 1st Battalion, 3rd Special Forces. It's always 100% accountability recalls.
You on leave? Get your ass back here.
I will never forget when some fuck would get a DUI and someone else's fucking company, but they were within the battalion, everybody got recalled. And everybody had a formation at like some stupid hour on a fucking Saturday morning. 100%.
Was it the CO that recalled everybody?
Yeah.
That's insane.
It was the battalion commander would recall, or the battalion sergeant major would recall the entire battalion because one fuck in another company that we don't even know who this person is got a DUI. So we all the whole battalion gets punished for it. All right. So it is unknown when the investigation into drug and human trafficking in the Fort Bragg area began, but it is known that the FBI became involved in investigating the deaths of Timothy Dumas and Delta Force operator Billy Levine in 2020, when they were both found shot to death at a training site on Bragg.
Interesting.
Last week's arrest began with investigations receiving more evidence after an undercover law enforcement officer posing as an underage girl helped arrest a member of 1st Battalion, 3rd Special Forces Group back in December. Think
about that. That's some what's that movie? 21st Jump Street type shit. How young do you gotta look? You're in the FBI and you're out here posing as an underage girl. Excuse me?
There's a lot of ways. Like, I actually watched a documentary.
Unless it's online. If it's online, that's different.
I actually watched a documentary of there was an undercover FBI agent who was in her mid to late 20s posing as an underage girl online as for like sting operations. And she was even a mom. She was a mother. Like, she was like in her 20s.
Yeah.
And they were able to make her look really, really young with certain lighting, makeup, and certain dress styles and stuff. There's ways that they can make them look younger than they actually are.
I mean, if it's online, it makes sense to me.
Now,
I'm thinking
person,
like in person.
It's not.
Yeah.
It's definitely on a sting that starts online and ends in person. Like the suspect doesn't.
That makes sense.
The suspect rarely ever gets to meet close up with the decoy because the decoy is older, and physically, when you get up to the decoy, they will look older. And that makes sense. That was actually because, like, during that documentary, that was their concern, was because that, like, you can make people look younger online, but it's the actual meat part that's the toughest part for these stings, because the suspect will actually pick up on that the decoy is older than they've been perceiving.
Yeah.
So it's like they have to be very careful with it because they could compromise the whole investigation off of just that interaction.
Which makes sense. Yeah, that's. I hadn't really thought about that.
So last week, investigate more evidence after undercover. Let's see. That individual is known to moonlight as a bouncer at a bar in Southern Pines, frequented by Special Forces community. A military source close to the situation explained to Connecting Vets. The Green Beret is allegedly had been pipping out underage girls to the Special Forces community at drug-fueled parties in Southern Pines.
Good Lord.
This is what happens when there is no war, no direction, and an 18-month red cycle with no missions, a Special Forces soldier said. No dudes are fucking around with young kids and the crazy drugs. All these lives ruined because people are just bored. I don't fucking believe that. I don't believe that for a second, dude.
I will say that, like, with no war, like, Garrison sucks and people do a lot more stupid shit when there's nothing to do. But I'm not out here diddling children and pimping underage girls because I'm fucking bored. That's a bit of a stretch.
And you know what? The war is over. I don't know what to do. I think I might traffic children. Like, what?
Like, even the drugs thing I could understand too, because they start you start going down a rabbit hole
of
and
drugs,
drugs in the military.
Drugs,
it's
alcohol,
always been
partying, being reckless, but not this. This is not.
Yeah, that's a stretch.
Whoever that dude is a fucking idiot and should be stripped of his tab. I'm sorry. That is the dumbest shit. And I know people do stupid shit because I've seen it done. And I know the Special Forces community is a whole different league of its own. Just with my interactions with those guys, they are definitely a league of their own. But when it comes to this kind of shit, this isn't the kind of reckless shit that they do. They either buy a bunch of stupid shit, drink a lot, maybe dabble in some cocaine, fuck a stripper or something.
Yeah, I can see like some hooker type stuff being involved,
but not
that would make sense.
Not pipping out underage girls.
Yeah, that's a bit of a stretch.
All right. Whether the individual rolled on his accomplices or law enforcement's ripped the data from his cell phone, it quickly led to an arrest of another Green Beret involved in drug trafficking in 1st Battalion, 3rd Special Forces Group. Now, drug trafficking, I could see that. I could see that one. That one is like fucking.
Especially when you're like you're towards the top. Like, you know what really fucks with the Special Forces guys all that much? Because they're like in a league of their own. Well, like if you're not being respected all that often, and there's not a whole lot of top coverage on you with what you're doing, you kind of like you're in your own world. And if people aren't truly paying attention, and you already know how to be covert in the first place, this can go kind of haywire very quickly, especially when it comes to drugs.
Yeah, drugs. I could see gun trafficking, drug trafficking,
absolutely
not human trafficking.
Yeah, well, unless it's like of age hookers,
even still,
because that was a thing in for the Navy, the whole Fat Leonard type thing in Bahrain.
So, with the information of additional suspects in hand, CID and military police set up shop at one of the main bottlenecks to entering or exiting Fort Bragg, the long street gate between Post and Southern Pines.
Bottleneck.
It was a bottleneck.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, I'm sorry, bottleneck. It was a trail of tears and douchebag cars, said Special Forces. said a Special Forces member who witnessed the scene last week while each soldier stopped for questioning and their vehicle parked along the street.
Just Mustangs and Camaros for days.
Yeah. One of those stopped at the gate was a member of the Army's elite counterterrorism unit called Delta Force, who had recently been picked up by the unit after serving in 1st Battalion, 3rd Special Forces Group. A physician's assistant assigned to 3rd Special Forces Group was also questioned, according to the source.
Oh, interesting.
The dragnet led to the questioning of 15 service members in total regarding drug-related allegations spread across various special operations commands on Fort Bragg. You know, the more I read about the drug thing, I almost wonder if that one dude was referencing the drug and partying shit and not the human trafficking part. I wonder if this article was written and put his quote in there without the additional context of what he was referring to. Like they were probably like, what do you think of these Special Forces operators getting in trouble for drug trafficking and basically, getting involved with drugs and trafficking? And he was probably, this is what happens when like these guys just get reckless. I'm sure if they said that they were fucking dealing with underage girls, they'd be like, that is not. I almost wonder if that quote was misplaced.
Could be.
Okay, let's see. So the drugs allegedly distributed amongst the special operations community include cocaine, ecstasy, fentanyl lollipops, and the date rape drug Rufinol, also known as roofies. The U.S. Army Special Operations Command is aware of the allegations of drug involvement from soldiers assigned to USASOC units on Fort Bragg. U.S. Army Special Operations Command. That's USASOC. And USASOC Public Affairs Officer Lieutenant Colonel Mike Burns said in a statement connecting vets, that's what he said. This is what he said to them. He said we take all the allegations seriously and are fully cooperating with the Criminal Investigation Division. CID's investigation is ongoing and will be inappropriate to discuss the status of their investigation. The statement said all soldiers have the right to due process, including the presumption of innocence under the Uniform Code of Military Justice.
Fair point.
Panic began within the Special Forces community over the weekend, with the rumors swirling that the arrests were also connected to various murders around Fort Bragg in recent years.
What? Nuh-uh.
While the other service members quickly disposed of their drug stashes and evidence of other nefarious activities, several sources described a connecting vets. Last year, the official publication of the Special Warfare Center and School on Fort Bragg published an issue of their Special Warfare magazine, specifically about ethical issues within the Special Forces community. Clearly, that message was not heard. On Sunday, 1st Bat 3rd Special Forces Group was recalled to Fort Bragg and instructed to form up in uniform outside its unit's high-performance training center. Once there, service members were given drug tests and admonished by superiors. Oh, yeah, the 100% accountability and fucking piss tests for everybody.
Surprise!
Dude, this is exactly what happened when there was a big cocaine ring discovered in our unit. It was found out that there was about 20 guys in 2nd Battalion that were selling coke and selling heroin. They were selling heroin, and they recalled the entire brigade. And we had to have fucking police dogs doing health and welfare inspections on our rooms, piss test every day, 100% piss test every morning before PT.
So what I've learned from being the urinalysis coordinator for my command, at least on the Navy side of it, which I feel like is probably pretty similar to the Army, that for me to, let's say, pull 100% or do a command sweep, I can't do that without like CO authorization.
Oh yeah, that's how this came up. Like the brigade commander said that,
and I found out that you can't target people either. So you can't like try to pull
where you suspect someone
specific people. Yeah, so you can't like try to manipulate the system, especially with like by the individual random tests. You have to do 100%. So like if you have a suspicion of something, you have to do 100% sweep to test everybody. Like you have to do it across the board.
I know. That was 100% why we were doing it. They knew certain people were doing it, but they couldn't single them out legally. Yeah. So they made everybody do it.
Yeah.
It's the military's way of like getting the answer they want without actually asking for the answer that they want.
That's one of those ones where like kind of like the math punishment type thing kind of makes sense to me, because it is kind of illegal if you think about it, that you want to just specifically drug test someone based off of accusations, which is, in my opinion, not really right. However, if you want to catch someone, but you have the authorization to be like, oh, I'm not going to target you. However, fucking everybody's doing this. It's not just you. We gonna do it to everyone. So like, even if there's people that we're not suspecting, they're gonna get caught too.
It's like, I know you're doing cocaine, but I can't actually have you do a piss test. So guess what? Everyone's doing.
I can't prove it. So we gonna find out.
So, 1st Battalion is where much of the drug and human trafficking charges originate from, and the epicenter appears to be the drug leader's team, ODA 3135. Other battalions in the group are expected to be swept up in investigation in the coming days and weeks. One Special Forces member described the tone of the 3rd Special Forces group this week as a mass cal, referring to a mass casualty event in combat, where more soldiers are injured than medics can possibly handle. I can confirm that 15 soldiers assigned to USASOC were questioned and released to their command. 2 of those soldiers have been cleared of any wrongdoing, according to Lieutenant Colonel Mike Burns' statement. The overwhelming majority of Army Special Operations soldiers that live the soft values every day. The use of illegal drugs or any other illegal activity goes directly against these values and does not reflect the behavior we demand from every soldier in our formation. The statement continued. USASOC maintains a strict policy against the use of any illegal drugs. Illegal drug use is not acceptable, nor is it tolerated. We're taking measures at every level to ensure the health and welfare of our soldiers and to reduce these harmful behaviors in our formation. Interesting.
You know what? You've seen, what is it? The Punisher, right?
Yes.
That's kind of how I picture a lot of these situations, to where, let's say, the position of the lieutenant colonel there. Like in that show, he may have been the one making the statements, but he could have also been the one that was like calling some of the shots, or like he's keeping things off of the trail as well himself, just off of his position. But at least like how the show goes, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And I always kind of picture like this is a very real possibility.
I mean, it is.
Because you got to think, these guys aren't just doing this shit on their own. Typically, especially not getting away with it for so long.
Well, the thing is, how long were they doing it? If they weren't,
I think it had to have been for a while.
It can't. I don't think it was. If it was, it feels like a very recent development, and that these guys were just very sloppy in how they were doing it, and that's why they got caught.
Well, this was in relation to a couple of deaths back in 2020, so it's been going on for a while.
Yeah.
And like those two dudes probably got caught up in something and ended up dying for it. Like they came to their training area and just popped them.
I like how they didn't even elaborate on that investigation for the murder of those.
That's because it's a different article. They linked it.
Did they link it?
Yeah.
Let me open it back up. I want to read about that one. So do Delta Force operators have a license to kill? Green Beret deaths raises questions.
And this is 2020. So
Master Sergeant William Levine and Timothy Dumas were found dead at the training site on Fort Bragg, North Carolina. The case is being investigated as a homicide. A spokesperson for Army Criminal Investigation. Oh, wait, I think I remember reading about this. Levine was a member of the Army's elite counterterrorism unit, Delta Force, and deployed to Afghanistan and Iraq. Dumas was an Army veteran who previously served as the property book officer at 7th Special Forces Group before serving the same role at Fort Bragg for 9 years.
Holy shit, it's a long article.
Yeah, it is. Interesting. So he was in charge of property books. He probably noticed equipment was missing.
It's a long article. I don't think we have time for this, but
probably don't. Let's see.
Good Lord. It's a long fucking article.
Oh, they got involved with narcotics.
Yeah. So I think it went pretty deep.
So
it had probably been going for a while.
So from March 15th and 19th, Leshkar and Levine were on vacation in their families in Disney World in Florida. March 17th, Leshkar called his sister, Nicole Rick, to wish her happy St. Patrick's Day. He was intoxicated but happy, she said. This is the last time they would ever speak. He also called his mother that night and told her that he and his wife had decided to get alcohol out of their family, and now they knew this is him addressing his addiction issues. Let's see. So Leshkar began working on his car out in the driveway. Levine later said in a statement to police he was removing the car's battery. During this time, two allegedly had an argument, which she turned into a physical confrontation, according to the 1st Special Forces Command memorandum obtained by Connecting Vets. Turned into some sort of wrestling match, but the argument was what it was about remains unclear. Let's see. What happens next remains disputed by the family members of both men, but medical examiner report reveals some details. Leshkar was found by police officers and the medical examiner in a prone position with multiple gunshot wounds to the chest and neck. 4 .45 caliber shell casings were found at the scene. 3 of the 4 gunshots struck Leshkar, according to the ME report. 1 penetrated his neck and lodged in his back. Another struck him in the right side. 3rd was superficial grazing wound across the left side of his neck. The bullet arching at a 45-degree downward angle, the bullet passing from the back to front. So he was shot while he was laying down.
Interesting.
This is a really long article.
Yeah, it is.
The shooter's own words, bury his ass because there's no screwdriver. Did it disappear, or melt? What, it was over tools?
Quote unquote.
And I don't know. Maybe it wasn't connected. Based off this article, it doesn't sound like it was connected to any of that shit.
But you never know. I think it just goes deeper. These types of things always go deeper.
They definitely do. Regiment in this podcast is also partnered with BR Paradox. BR Paradox is a company that specializes in custom-built PCs. So if you have an idea for a cool custom-built PC, they can definitely give you the hookup on that. But if you're not in the market for custom PCs, BR Paradox has a wide array of pre-built PCs that you could choose from at great prices. And if you're not in the market right now for a new PC, BR Paradox will definitely hook you up with an optimization. Optimizations take around 10-15 minutes to do, and they're very awesome. I highly recommend them. I had my PC optimized by them, and it's never run smoother since. BR Paradox also has a list of renowned customers ranging from LeBron James, Chris Brown, members of FaZe Clan, and even Angela White from your favorite orange and black site, if you know what I mean. So head on over to brparadox.com to get yourself a PC today or an optimization. And remember to use promo code REGIMENT at checkout. That's promo code REGIMENT down here at checkout. So the Navy confiscated a camera during the Top Gun Maverick filming.
Not shocking.
I'm pretty sure I can figure out why.
You know how long it took me to realize that the military has like a movie department where they approve like military related stuff and like their use of shit in movies their affiliation. I had no fucking clue for a long time that was a real thing.
They kind of have to.
But like they can deny certain things being in movies, like if they don't show the military in like a good light or whatever.
Yeah.
And like there were a lot of recruiting opportunities. Like they will actually have people working with Hollywood to make movies to help recruiting opportunities. Like the original Top Gun was one of those movies to help with recruiting.
It definitely was.
And it worked.
It did work. So let's read about why they took cameras. So now that the box office cash has been counted and the movie has landed in a home video.
Can we even read this whole article?
Why can't we?
Oh no. Can you read the whole article?
I could see all of it. Why?
Mine says don't miss a single military.com story.
Just close out of that. It should open right back up. So now that the box office cash has been counted on the movie, has landed on a home video and streaming, we're starting to hear a few stories about the behind-the-scenes drama during the making of Top Gun Maverick way back in 2018. Director Joseph Kosinski is making the rounds with Hollywood media as the movie garners attention during awards season. After a year of extremely disciplined on-message communications about the movie, things were getting a bit looser and everyone's telling some interesting stories. Kosinski told Deadline about his experience with the Navy and his love of flying. I had a huge love of aviation growing up. I was building model airplanes, really complex. That's cool, man. After hanging around the Navy for a couple of years, the director has even started using military lingo. When you're directing the film, you kind of become a subject matter expert, which is the Navy term. My God. This is I'm one of you. This reminds me of people like that. I'm just like you because I've been around you. I got to see things no civilian would see. That's where Kosinski got into a bit of trouble. He was carrying a camera when he saw some things that no civilian is supposed to see. I had my camera confiscated at one point, wiped clean, he said. I took some pictures and maybe captured something I wasn't supposed to capture, and my camera was quickly returned to me without any photos on it. The Navy must have forgiven his mistake because it collaborated with the filmmakers on creating fictional versions of some of its most secret technology. I got to go to China Lake and shoot a hangar that is top secret, and it is all in this quest for authenticity. And I think you feel it when you see it because you don't feel like you're in a Hollywood design setting. There's a reality to it. We collaborated with the actual engineers who make the real secret aircraft. It was just a dream come true. So the next big event for TGM crew was the announcement of Oscar nominations. The movie is considered to look for Best Picture. Well, that's okay. So that's it. They just took the camera because he ended up taking footage of things that he wasn't supposed
to. Public necessarily wasn't supposed to see.
I figured that's like, probably what this was going to
yeah, that's kind of how I figured as well. But it's just interesting that the Navy is like, no. That's ours now.
I mean, it's not interesting. It's pretty typical, honestly.
So to us, yes, but to a civilian, that's pretty jarring. To have someone just be like,
"Give me your fucking camera."
This is our shit now. Like, let's see if it was his phone. They could take your whole ass phone.
Yeah, it's like, it's my camera now.
That would suck ass. You better hope all that shit's in the cloud, motherfucker.
So this Marine unit needs to fucking tie down their weapons.
Fucking 3-6. I'm so happy that I left this unit before the original rifle situation,
dude.
Because it was so much fun to make fun of some of my friends that were still there and be like, how's the no leave situation going for you guys?
So for those that are wondering, so M18 pistol goes missing from Marine unit that lost 2 rifles in 2019. Now, I got to say this. If you are a unit that continuously loses weapons, someone should be investigating on why these weapons keep going missing. Is it negligence or is someone jacking them? Well, I'm sure the article will go further into it.
Quote unquote.
So a Marine unit that headlines made after 2 of its rifles went missing in 2019 has lost another weapon. A Marine spokesman confirmed to Marine Corps Times Friday. The 2nd Marine Division Infantry Unit of 3rd Battalion, 6 Marines based at Camp Lejeune, North Carolina, discovered Thursday that 1 M18 service pistol and 2 pistol magazines were unaccounted for, according to First Lieutenant Mark Grill and 2nd Marine Division spokesman. The Naval Criminal Investigative Services investigating the disappearance, Grill told the Marine Corps Times in an email Friday. 3-6 and 2nd Marine Division will continue to work with NCIS throughout the investigation. Unverified reports of the missing weapons appeared Thursday night on the Twitter account of Terminal Lance, a Marine-related humor site run by Marine veteran Max Uriarty.
3-6 losing shit again.
3-6 losing shit again. Uriarty remarked in the tweet. Missing firearms saga of 3rd Battalion 6 Marines shortly began after Christmas 2019 with the disappearance of 2 rifles during a training exercise at Camp Lejeune, North Carolina. NCIS opened an investigation and the Marines were actively searching for weapons. Hands across America, walked through the woods looking around for guns is what they were doing.
FOD walk down.
I could just see it now. Just a bunch of fucking Marines walking in a fucking line through the woods trying to find like some M16 laying on the ground.
Think about this though. So it was a pistol that got lost. So that means it was likely a higher enlisted or an officer.
Yeah, probably.
Or maybe a corpsman. But even then, most of 99% of the time, we're going to have a fucking rifle too. So I highly doubt that it was a corpsman.
So speaking with Marine Corps Times a few weeks later, LaFonte also dismissed online rumors that Marines had been denied holiday leave because of the missing rifles.
Oh, yeah, that was bullshit too.
They denied they said that they dismissed that the rumors that they had been denied leave because of the rifles.
So the truth behind that was it wasn't quote unquote denied, it was delayed. So they weren't denying people's leave. They were just saying you can't leave right now. But people had already planned for certain times. People had bought tickets and everything. So they had to cancel that shit, likely without refunds, and push it off to later.
Yeah, that
was their way around that. So they didn't deny anybody leave.
That doesn't surprise me. So the battalion's commander and sergeant major were fired for loss of trust and confidence in March 2020.
Of course.
Meanwhile, 3rd Battalion 6 Marines, whose names often shortened to 3-6, became the butt of memes about the missing rifles, and rightfully so.
Yes.
It's always the fucking Marines. It's always the Marines doing shit. I say this even in regiment. Why is it always the Marines?
Because they do stupid shit. They do stupid shit very well.
I have a lot of Marine friends, and I love you guys. I do. But why the fuck is it the Marines always? You know?
Because, even in the corpsman community, we have a saying that says, a bored corpsman is a happy corpsman, but a bored Marine can change that very quickly. Because they're doing stupid shit. They're very smart. So they do stupid shit very well. People think that Marines are stupid. I'm like, no, they're not. They just do stupid things very, very well.
Very smart is a term I think you're using too loosely there.
They do stupid shit very smartly, if that makes sense.
A year after the rifles disappeared, NCIS was still investigating with no culprit identified, reported at the time. NCIS didn't immediately provide an answer to a Marine Corps Times inquiry Friday about the status of the investigation into the missing rifles. In the 2010s, 204 Marine firearms were lost or stolen, and only 14 were later recovered. A 2021 Associated Press investigation found some of those stolen military guns ended up being used in street crime.
What? Nuh-uh. Don't believe that.
Sig Sauer announced in 2019 that the Marine Corps was adopting the M18, which is very surprising, honestly, that they were getting the new gun.
Yeah, right.
Like they were getting a new gun, not a gun that we don't use anymore, but they were getting a new weapon system.
Yeah, it's pretty shocking.
Yeah, it's extremely shocking. The compact variant of the U.S. Army's modular handgun system is official duty pistol. Marine Corps Times previously reported.
The Army probably had a surplus of them, and they're like, you guys can have some of these.
My buddy with down in Florida's, one of the Florida's SF groups, he used one of these, and he said he thought they were dog shit by just because of what they are. But he said he actually got to get his hands on with it, and he said, dude, this gun is, he's like, this fucking handgun is so good. He loves it. But they are kind of on a recall right now for the M18s because they have been reported of discharging on their own.
Oh, that's I would say that too.
Everyone was jokes around and says it's the gun that that's so good it basically shoots itself, because it does. Like a lot of the M18s were notorious for firing on their own. There's actually like a recall going on for them.
You just have a despot. If enough people say that their despot was accidental, I'm sure there would be a recall.
Did they ever figure out no, I guess they didn't. They never.
I want to know who lost it. That's what I want to know. What rank were they?
They didn't say. None of that was the article's done.
Shocking. That's one reason we know that this was a higher individual, because they didn't mention their rank, and not really. I feel like there wasn't too much else with this.
I don't know.
Because if this was like a lance corporal, they would have absolutely said that a lance corporal lost this fucking rifle or lost this pistol.
No. I'm going to actually look up the M18. Okay, so wounded officer sues Sig Sauer, saying gun goes off by itself. Oh, these are police officers. So they're facing a $10 million lawsuit over the P320, which is essentially what the M18 is.
Did you ever get to use the IAR, the M27?
No.
I missed out on it too.
So police and federal law enforcement officers are among 20 people from multiple states saying they were wounded by a popular type of Sig Sauer pistol. The latest lawsuit alleging that the gun is susceptible to going off without the trigger being pulled. The lawsuit filed Wednesday in U.S. federal court, Concord, New Hampshire, says that there have been over 100 incidents of the P320 pistol unintentionally discharging when the user believed they did not pull the trigger. These men and women are highly trained officers, veterans, and responsible, safety-conscious gun users who put their trust in Sig Sauer, unaware that the gun they used to serve was a danger to themselves or anyone around them. Attorney representing the group of 20, about a dozen spouses, said in the statement. Zimmerman said the largest P320 lawsuit against the New Hampshire-based gun maker on behalf of the people who were injured. So, in many cases, the gun discharged while still in the user's holster, seriously injuring them in the leg, hip, or leaving them unable to perform their usual duties, according to the lawsuit. They were not touching.
That's not good.
They were not touching the trigger, the lawsuit said. One of the plaintiffs.
That's where your fucking artery is.
One of the plaintiffs, a U.S. Navy veteran who instructed service members in firearms training and safety over 20 years, he said he was hurt in the leg and calf by a bullet from his P320 February on a private shooting range on his property after he had just holstered the gun. The first thing that came out of everybody's mouth who knew me said, "How did that happen? You're the safest person we know with a firearm." Who is, said Delgado, who was out for work for 6 weeks, unable to climb a ladder or get on the roof of his property to inspect a job. He said some people assumed that his finger was on the trigger or manipulated in some way, or did somebody do it to shoot himself. Being looked and told that it was your fault when was the embarrassing part and kind of angers me, he says. Sig Sauer denies allegations that the pistol is prone to discharging without the use of the trigger. The P320 is designed to fire when the trigger is pulled. Sig Sauer. No shit, Sig. No shit. I think all firearms are designed that way. It includes internal safeties to prevent the firearm from discharging without a trigger pull. The lawsuit details negligence and product liability claims against Sig Sauer, as well as deceptive marketing practices for the gun, advertising it won't fire unless you want it to. One of the allegations of negligence is the Sig Sauer equipped a U.S. Army version of the P320, which is a manual safety that guarded against unintentional firing. Yet, if left off, non-military models, co-counsel Daniel Sessler said, only one non-military model of the gun offered that feature as an option. To make the gun with a trigger this short and this light without any sort of external safety is reckless and unprecedented. So, Piet said that the full trigger pull force of the P320 is consistent with the industry practice. Some customers, including many law enforcement agencies, believe that the inclusion of manual safety is a detriment to the safe and reliable use of the pistol, given their intended use. Other customers make the opposite view, given their intended use. So, inclusion of manual safety is a detriment. Yeah, it is. It actually is. If a manual safety is, like my 1911 has a dual safety on it, so I can't fire that thing unless my hand is around it. So it's got like a safety on the back of the handle of the grip, where unless I'm gripping that gun, it won't fire. I can have the hammer back, safety off, and touch the trigger, and I still can't fire it unless my hand is around that other safety.
Well, it's a dual safety. I think it sounds like there was no safety, like how we have our M4s. It's got pew, 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 no pew. You know what I mean? It sounds like there's not even that function.
You mean a selector switch?
Yeah.
It's a handgun.
Well, just a safety in general. It sounds like it was all automated.
So, kind of like how Glocks are. Glocks have like a safety on the trigger. So, like, there's like a part of the trigger that you can't pull the trigger unless you're pulling the trigger.
That didn't sound.
It's so the trigger looks like. Hang on. Let me show you. I'm having a hard time really explaining this. So if you go down and you look at the safety on this Glock, right? So you see the trigger, how it's also got like another part of the trigger. That is the trigger safety mechanism.
Seems kind of redundant.
So there is no like actual safety switch on a Glock. It's on
like a weapon should have that.
Yeah, but you would think so, but it must work pretty well, because how many negligent discharges of Glocks do you hear about when it comes to a safety issue?
I don't look into those types of things, so I couldn't really say.
So essentially the trigger can't work unless you are pushing that thing down. So, I mean, obviously, like, unless your finger is on the trigger, it's not going to go off. Basically, that's how that safety works. So unless your finger...
But if something accidentally hits the trigger...
It... maybe. I don't know.
You see what I mean?
I'm not a fan of Glocks, but... I don't know. Glocks, they are really reliable firearms, I will say. But, so yeah, like, I've actually been told it's not just the law enforcement side of this. Like, the M18s are, like, some of them are going off on their own. And the way that I was looking at it was like, of course it is, because they probably manufacture them so fast to get them out to the Army for mass production that obviously final quality kind of got put by the wayside.
I mean, the lowest bidder.
Yeah, they always give it to the lowest bidder. So, any regiment things coming up that we could talk about?
Looks like, well, I know the Regiment Warriors hike schedule is going to be added to the event schedule here pretty soon in the Discord server.
Was the schedule made before you guys had your meeting?
Sort of. Some of them were approved, and the picture with the list was sent out and put on social media. And then I think we added some more to it that were approved either during or after the conference. We're working with American Legion.
I mean, yeah, That's the American Legion thing has been going on for a while. But the gaming initiative with the American Legion is a lot of the American Legion posts are so on board with this. So like even my post, I talked to them about it at our meeting a couple weeks ago, and the only issue with my post is actually getting a gaming center set up in there because there isn't much room for one. The only spot they said, well, you could put one in here, and it's a storage closet. And they're like, well, you can just move things over to the other side of the storage room. And I'm like, yeah, but that you want a gaming area to feel like a lounge, like a gaming lounge, you know, or an area where not a closet where you just have all your extra tables and chairs and shit. So it's like, could we clear this out and move it somewhere? And they're like, well, not really. So I'm like, finding space in my post is kind of is the challenge. But they are absolutely on board. Usually the one challenge that everyone's got going on is the post not being open for it, meaning that they're not open to the idea of implementing something like that. But most
That's why some American Legions are dying.
Well, almost all of the posts are on board for this. It's the smaller ones that are like out in like the fucking boondocks. We have one post that's kind of close to me. They only have 6 members left.
Wow.
Because they are not very welcome to new people and they aren't open for new ideas. They want to keep everything the way it is. And as a result, like there's only 6 of them left, and they're eventually going to have to shut down because it's just, they're not bringing anybody in. And because of that, what's up?
You would think that, especially if you're already dying, you'd be kind of open to some new ideas.
What? Yeah, I smell it too. He's right here under me. Todd's probably not feeling good because he ate those fucking onions.
Them eeky dog farts.
It's not farts, it's burps.
Even still. I mean, this is it's January. We got a new year initiative to get $50,000 raised for Stack Up.
Say it again.
It's a new year initiative to get $50,000 raised for Stack Up.
So the new Stack Up charity is live, and our goal all year long, and our goal is $50K. Last year they raised $625,000 across the board. So Stack Up does in order to, these charities are to help Stack Up achieve the things that they, the great things that they do. I want to go to their Failings house so bad.
We should put the link for that in the description too.
I'm definitely going to.
Oh, you know what's crazy? So at the Reverend Warriors conference, the public affairs officer for Vet TV is I think he's the PAO. He's on the board of directors for Stack Up.
Oh,
and
really?
It blew my fucking mind. Because he was on stage and he was talking about he's a big video game nerd and he mentioned Stack Up. I was the only one in the crowd that was like, woo! No one else fucking knew what the hell I was talking about. But I go up to him and I was like, hey, so since you're part of Stack Up, so that means you know Regiment and you know Chris. And so me and him, we got to talking, and he's actually helping me with some of the IW type things, and he's going to help me bring Regiment more into the IW type stuff to get them to like the events. And he was talking because I mentioned to him, I'm like, it's our main thing. Like when I want to get our Regiment guys out to these veteran in-person events, it's to just get the nerds away from their computers for a little bit, touch some grass, and have that in-person interaction before they go back to their dungeon and start playing more games.
Yeah.
And he's all for it. But it just blew my mind that I was like, he's the PAO for Vet TV now. That's really all I had for that. But it was a cool conversation.
Yeah. I like the fact that all these orgs are kind of intermingling finally. Because I know that IW and Stack Up weren't really intermingling as much from what I understood. And I know that when we partnered because we were partnered with Stack Up before IW, that there was kind of like the whole question of, should we partner with IW, because would that conflict with Stack Up stuff? Because they're both kind of a charity in their own way.
They're both 501c3.
Yeah, they're both 501c3s. So is like, would that conflict? But now I'm seeing more and more that they're kind of intermingling. which is
and they have different missions,
different missions
makes
focused
sense.
on the same group of people.
Yeah, well,
Which-
different but the same mission, just a different avenue of approach.
That's why I thought, like, I even talked to you about this before, like a couple years ago, where it was like different avenues, but same concept, but with like, I can't imagine that it would be an issue to not have all these orgs kind of like working hand in hand for the same reasons.
Mm-hmm.
So it's great to see that Stack Up and IW and Regiment are all three kind of like in that circle of, we're helping vets in one way or another way. We got all these different avenues, and Stack Up and IW is actually intermingling with what you just said to get the help across in different ways.
I still want to get Danny on the podcast.
We got to get Danny. Did you ask him about it?
No, he ended up leaving before I could talk to him outside of like
You
the
have
conference
one
time.
job, Doc.
I
One.
know. So
one
he ended
job.
up leaving. So I couldn't talk to him during the conference portion. I had to catch him like on some of our off time. And the final day, he had ended up leaving ahead of time before I could catch him. But I mean, I have his public affairs officer's information. So
Fuck yeah, dude.
who already knows Chris, who Chris also works for now because he works for Stack Up.
Yeah, I saw that. He also kind of works for Paradox too.
That's true. Man's jack of all trades over here.
Yeah. So that's pretty much it for our announcements. I think next episode I'm going to front load the announcements.
Yeah, I think that would be good.
I didn't think about them until just now.
Wow.
Yeah. All right. Well, I got to get out of here. I got to fucking do snow removal because I'm buried in 10 inches of snow right now.
Well, some of us make better decisions to live in places where there's no snow.
I didn't make the decision. I didn't have anywhere to go.
You chose to live there because of your terrible ex.
Yeah. Well, anyway, thanks for hanging out with me again and doing this. Thanks for tuning in.
Video, nerd.
Like the video, and if you have any suggestions or you have anything you want us to talk about, just put it in the comments section. And
or a guest if you want a specific guest and you have their contact info.
Yeah, if you want to see somebody on the podcast, let us know, and we'll try to get them on here.
But be constructive. Don't just bitch to bitch.
Yeah, don't bitch to bitch. Also, if you're talking about like I forgot where I was going with that. Also, the stream team and the Twitch team are two different things. I feel like I have to keep talking about that because a lot of people think that the stream team and the Twitch team are one and the same, and they're not. They're not. The Twitch team is basically you're featured on Regiment's Twitch, members.
You know how hard it is to find the Twitch team unless you have the link to it?
It's not.
Like,
you just go to Regiment's Regiment's profile on Twitch, and then you scroll down a little bit on their page, and it shows who's live, and it shows who's not live, but it shows you the list of members that are streaming on Twitch that are on the Twitch team.
In a general sense, like searching for it, ridiculous.
It's not that hard. I'll pull it up right now and show you.
We're talking about a lot of people in here that don't even know the difference between Twitch team and stream team.
Here, I'll show it to you right now.
Oh, look, we have new members as of right now.
All right, so I'm on Regiment's Twitch right now.
Last name and the old clock.
So if you scroll all the way to the bottom, Regiment suggests these streamers. If you scroll down to the bottom right there, it literally shows all the Twitch team members right there. I mean, these are all stream team guys, except for one. I guess it is kind of hard to find them all.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe it's in the about. Huh. There's no way to expand that list.
Exactly.
It just shows like these people right here.
Yeah, the suggested streamers on the bottom. Yeah, those are I think those will automatically rotate in between.
I think they will, because right now most of them are stream team. So like I want to say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 of them are.
So you have to click when you're on the page. Go to the about section, right next to where it says 9.8K followers. Click on the regiment. It's highlighted in red, and that'll take you to the stream team where we have 3,300 members.
There it is. Yeah, the Twitch team members. There they all are.
That's insane.
So it is kind of it is weird to find them.
My boy's on there right now.
I'm gonna have to like make note of this next time I stream on Twitch and raid somebody in regiment. That way I find all the team members. I think that might be why a lot of people are like getting upset that no one's coming to watch me. It's probably because they can't find them. They just go to
but you gotta look and see too. Like if you scroll down, look how many people are already live. Granted, a lot of them don't have a lot of viewers, which is common in the Twitch sphere.
It'll show you all that are live, and then you go on more, and it shows you the ones that are not. But I'm saying like on the homepage, like it'll show you ones that are live typically, but on the homepage, none of them.
One that's live.
It shows one that's live.
Which I don't even see him.
I think this is more of like a Twitch issue and not an us issue.
Significantly.
It's
like veteran plays games is the top selected on the very bottom, because those are in the settings. Those are totally separate from the stream team.
Yeah.
Because those are individually put in. So he was probably put in there in that rotation a long time ago. And I don't think we've really touched that in a long time.
Probably not.
Plus, nobody really goes to look at those anyways.
I mean, if it was more upfront, people would, but because you have to actually click a few pages to actually see the list, then it's probably harder.
You really just have to click one.
No, you got to click the about, then you got to click the regiment. So that's 2 clicks right there, and then you got to go to that little list on the left. So if you were wondering, that's where you find the Twitch team people. All right, anyway, I got to get off here so I can go do snow shit. So thanks for tuning in to the Smoke Pit, everybody. I'm Brock, joined with Doc. We'll catch you on the next episode, which will be next week. So keep an eye out for that. Love y'all. Appreciate y'all. Have a good rest of your week.
Stay hydrated, fuckers.
What?
I said stay hydrated, fuckers.
Yeah, drink water, change your socks. Full security. All right, later, all.